The New Zealand Today podcast was made with the support of New Zealand On Air. Cheers, guys. I'm warning the following episode contains graphic descriptions of violence and family violence. So if that's not going to be good for you, then please skip this one. Thanks for listening to everyone. And what do I say? Good luck.
Yeah. No, well, I did get good luck. I got a good judge and I got a good jury.
Welcome to episode 4 of the New Zealand Today podcast. My name is Guy Williams. I'm joined by Karen Hill.
Good morning.
And this is the audio accompaniment to the New Zealand Today show. It's vaguely connected to the New Zealand Today show. We're coming live from Karen's house in New Zealand. We're not live, are we? This is clearly pre-recorded. So used to say coming live, eh?
Yeah.
And we're covering all the news and all the stories that you need to know about in New Zealand Aotearoa today. Karen, are you excited?
Yes, of course.
What do you, of course? You don't have to be excited.
I love talking.
Don't we all, eh?
Yeah.
Don't we all? I enjoy talking about myself, and that's an embarrassing thing to admit. People always say, like, if you do an interview or something like that, is it hard? And it's like, no, I'm weirdly self-absorbed. And I know it's embarrassing to admit that out loud, but I think a lot of people do. Especially older people, because they want to tell you all their stories when they're old.
Yeah, I know. I love telling my stories.
Yeah, but like, you know, like you get on the bus and you just start a conversation with people and immediately they'll go crazy.
I totally talk to strangers.
Yeah.
Just sitting at the bus stop there. Oh, hey, you going, lovely day, isn't it? And off we go. And always end up with, nice to meet you. You have a nice rest of your day.
Yeah, it's really lovely when it's a positive experience. And it's weird to go to a big city if you visit, you know, say New York or London or something big.
Oh, yeah, you don't go smiling at the person when you're walking in the street, do you? Like, I see that elderly come in, I always put a smile on and lovely morning.
Yeah.
So they know I'm not a threat because there's that many arseholes around nowadays.
Yeah. You reckon there's more arseholes these days? It's an interesting theory.
Who robs handbags off a lady in the car park and she's holding on to a handbag and
people who are poor.
Seriously injured. There's no right to go around robbing people. That is disgusting.
That's true. Didn't you say your uncle was a robber?
A burglar.
Oh, different. I'm sorry.
Nobody was home in the premises.
Yeah, okay.
Shocked.
Because you're always very anti-crime and then you just tell me so many stories about crime. I'm like, really mixed messages. I'm not pro-crime, by the way. I'm just like...
Neither am I. I've just committed a few.
Yeah. No, but like, the thing... it's a tricky one because you don't want to ever sympathize or like justify a criminal or anything like that.
No.
But at the same time, you're like... I'm lucky in my life that I've never had to think about a burglary or something like that, you know?
No, I've never been a burglar or anything like that, shoplifting. I shoplifted when I was a kid and I got caught.
Yeah. Everyone, when you're a kid.
Taking sweets at the Woolworths pick and mix.
Yeah. Well, that's not even a crime. That's a New Zealand right.
They took me upstairs, they rang the police and the police took me home. My grandmother was visiting and I was mortified, but it actually worked for me. Because I was so, not about my mum and dad, it was my grandmother being there.
What? What happens for people who haven't listened to the podcast before is that Karen's stories are a lot better than mine. So Karen's story is coming up, so don't worry about that. And Karen's, your story we're teasing today, we teased at the end of last podcast, is the story you're sharing.
About when I stabbed a man.
When she stabbed a man. So my story's got to go first because there's no way I'm fucking topping that, all right? So my story is that, for people who don't know the Len Brown scandal, Len Brown was a very drab, kind of boring, old man, kind of accountant kind of vibe mayor who got elected in a landslide with the support of South Auckland churches. He was white, but he was very popular in the Pacific communities. And he got elected kind of in a landslide when Auckland formed a super mayoralty, right?
That's right.
And he ran a second campaign against a weird American guy called John Polino. And straight after he got elected, he was shamed in a huge sex scandal where John Polino released a woman whose name was Bevan. I say their names not to out them because their names are public. I think they're making a movie about her life, but also just because the names are quite unusual.
Yeah.
It's a woman whose name is Bevan, and
That's her first name.
her name is Bevan Schwang, and
yeah.
she, Bevan Schwang, was the woman in the affair. I feel quite sorry for her. Any woman in a sex scandal gets dragged through the ringer for no reason, other than the embarrassment of sleeping with Len Brown. But the weird story was that Bevan was kind of pushed into the relationship by a political operative who worked for John Polino, and his name, and I'm sorry if this is racist for making fun of his name, but it's one of the funniest and best names I've ever heard, I think it's Italian, was Luigi Waluigi.
Luigi.
Luigi Waluigi.
Luigi Waluigi.
Luigi Waluigi was the evil criminal mastermind behind leaking the Len Brown sex scandal. And here's the irony of it. I already kind of spoiled it. They leaked the sex scandal after they lost the election. So not only did they lose in the polls, a week later they released that the mayor was having an embarrassing scandal after the mayor was already re-elected. So they'd already lost, like there was nothing to gain. They just shamed themselves, got their own names dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
And everyone came out looking awful. Len Brown did his second term and ended up leaving. It was just interesting that Len Brown hilariously was caught having his affair in the Ngāti Whātua room. Shout out to Ngāti Whātua. I'm so sorry that their room got dragged through the mud like that.
Yeah.
But luckily it wasn't like a sacred room or something like that. But that was kind of a weird room. Of all the places to have sex, not the Ngāti Whātua room.
No.
But the other thing that was weird was that...
should have been down in the basement.
is that where you do the sex?
I don't know.
Karen, stop. If you were the mayor of Auckland, where would be your top 3 places to have sex? 1, basement. 2,
And a beard.
beers. That's good thinking. That's good thinking. Number 2. Number 3.
Oh, what should we do? Up against the wall?
I was just thinking of locations, but you got very specific there. You're like in a kitchen.
It's because I don't do it anymore.
Okay.
I'm retired.
You're retired from lovemaking.
Yeah.
Oh, good on you, kia kaha. I'm retired, voluntarily
Been
retired.
out with enough idiots in my lifetime so far.
Good on you, mate. Good on you. Good on you. Oh, so you might come out of retirement if you met a special person? The right person? Nah.
I got my friend Peter. It's companionship.
Oh, shout out to Peter.
Yeah, so I don't have to grow old by myself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. This got from very smutty to very wholesome real fast.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Oh, yeah, I met Peter. He was a lovely guy. Yeah, okay,
he
cool.
is.
But I've got to finish my story about Len Brown, the Len Brown scandal, right? So the Luigi Waluigi, Bevan Schwang scandal broke. But before that, I weirdly had a relationship with these people because politicians generally aren't like up for like a laugh, except for a week before an election, in which case they'll do any press you want.
Yeah.
And we had a terrible segment. It's actually kind of gone viral on TikTok now because I did one with Jacinda Ardern as well, and she's now very famous. She wasn't that famous. She was a backbencher at the time, but we got her on, and it was horrible. We did a segment where a character we called Little Guy, which was a little kid who we pretended was like a mini version of me with big old glasses on. He was the most adorable kid. So talented and so funny. Shout out to Little Guy. You're a legend, mate.
Yeah.
And he would go on a microphone in another room and tell me what weird stuff to do in the interview. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done because a kid's idea, like an 8-year-old's idea of what you should do, he'd be like, get up, run around the chair, and then run into the wall. That's not good stuff, Karen.
No, well, you were the one who was being guided by him.
One of his suggestions was slap Jacinda in the face.
Yeah.
And so we played slaps, and I lightly tapped her on the face, and now that video's gone viral.
I know.
And it's fake news. She wasn't the Prime Minister then. She hasn't been. People think she's doing that last week. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And also, it was a very light touch on the face, but I still cringe when I see it. And unfortunately,
Why?
my whole career is because just any touching a woman on the face without their consent is a bit weird. You know, like it's just I feel weird about it now. You know, if I went and touched your face now, that'd be weird, right?
Why?
What? You just don't just go touch people's face. If you touch my face, it'd be weird. Unless you're like, I don't know. We've just learned more about inappropriate touching now.
Unless you went like, are you all right? Are you hot? You know, just because you look hot or, you know.
Do you not feel weird about inappropriate touching? Like if people come in.
Oh, you know, I do feel.
When we took photos at New Zealand Today Live after the show, I remember a woman just like kind of like, you know, gave my ass a cheeky squeeze, and I felt like, you know,
really?
like, things like that.
You
and I was like, woman obviously, normally it's the other way around. Woman put up with it so often, but I always like, I always freak out a little bit. Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah. You know what I would have done if some guy pinched my ass I would have punched him in the face.
That's a good solution there, Karen. That's a bloody good solution.
Hey, you touched me, I'm going to touch you now.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that much. It was just in good fun, and it's Bill's sense of
well, you
humour.
can't go punching that woman in the face, can you? That wouldn't have been a good look.
No, and when men are doing it, it can be a little bit more insidious.
It's offensive, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how women put up with sexual harassment, and I don't think men realise how bad it is. And it's not until it happens to you. I've had a few incidences. Someone yanked my dick once. It's funny when I say it now, but at the time, it was at a party. It was completely sincere. Like this person pulled me close and gave me a good old fondle, and genuinely was like quite, still kind of like was like, did not enjoy it. And I can only imagine, what women have to go through on a regular basis. But I feel, rough about it.
Well, this guy wouldn't leave me in the pub one time. He kept annoying me. I kept saying, go away. And he wanted to kiss me. And you got beautiful eyes and all that. I said, I've told you to leave me alone. And I pushed him and he went over on the floor. And I got barred.
That's often the way, eh? Where it's like the person, Okay, so I've got to finish the story.
Yeah, it's taken a long time.
Yeah. Well, I thought we're taking some nice tangents along the way.
It's good.
Okay, so we're doing these interviews with a kid in my earpiece giving me instructions, and they were wacky, right?
Yeah.
And we did Len Brown, and I was quite nervous because, we were inside the offices or something like that, probably a room he had sex in, and I was quite nervous about it. Interviewing Len Brown, and, we asked some awkward questions, but it was all kind of like nice. His brand was kind of being boring. So I kind of asked some questions about being boring, and the kid made me do some wacky things. I think I did some press-ups and probably kiss the carpet and stuff like that. It was weird. Anyway, the wacky interview happened, said goodbye to him, said goodbye to his guy who was with him. In New Zealand, we don't have there's not a lot of people behind the scenes, but it was like a media manager or a press person. I couldn't really tell, maybe his personal assistant. I couldn't tell who this guy was, right? And a week later, bombshell drops. Len Brown becomes the the headline news every page. People get really excited by love scandals, especially ones with the mayor and a man named Luigi Waluigi. That's some juicy ass shit. Len Brown decided he was going to do an interview, and he did it with my channel, the channel I worked at the time, Channel 3, John Campbell.
Yeah.
And he went on that night or the night after the scandal broke and did like the tearful apology, which is always kind of bullshit, They always, the rugby player will come back to New Zealand in disgrace and they'll cry and they'll go, oh, I'm so sorry I let everyone down. It's like, you didn't let anyone down but really your partner and your family. Like, if anything, we like it because we enjoy hearing a good, juicy sex yarn and living vicariously through you and stuff. I decided that I saw the interview was happening live on TV. I was still at work in the office. And I went out of that and I decided to sit on the steps of the TV studio and wait for Len Brown to come out just to see. And just because he was like nice to me the week before. And I realised even though he fucked up and it was he was the asshole in this situation, I also wanted to say like, pull through, man. Yeah. Don't kill yourself. I don't know what.
Don't let it get you down.
So he came out of the steps and there was like some paparazzi there almost, or not paparazzi, just like news photographers there. And he kind of waved to them. And he saw me sitting on the steps across the road and I was like... Gave him the don't kill yourself thumbs up.
Yeah.
Life is worth living. I don't know what I was doing. And he came out of the steps and he was diplomatic and smiled and got in a car, taxi or whatever and drove off. And then that weird guy, the media guy, came out afterwards. He said to me, that interview there, the one he'd just done with like proper journalist John Campbell on 7pm, that was easier than the interview we did with you and the kid the other day. And then he kind of winked at me and then just got in his Subaru and drove off. And I found that so weird. Yeah. That I guess he was joking. Maybe he was just glad it went well or something like that. Yeah. But he was like, you could tell he was like, I'm the fucking man. I'm behind the scenes. I call the shots. I make shit happen. Yeah. And I'm not sure, but I think that guy might still be with the Mayor of Auckland to this day. He's just kind of one of those people that just kind of like works in politics behind the scenes. It kind of doesn't matter who the mayor is. He's kind of like the behind the scenes mingler. He's the little finger of the situation. I found that kind of interesting and weird. Doing a PR piece, I guess, was easier than a wacky comedy sketch. Anyway, that was my story about Len Brown.
Okay, that was a good story.
Was it though? I was proud of it. I thought it was
Yeah,
mildly interesting. Okay, now I'm about to get blown out of the water by the main event. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to hear about the time Karen stabbed a man. I shouldn't laugh because it's quite serious.
Back in 1998, it was in January, and it was a Sunday, and I had a friend come over.
Well, can you set the scene? Is it Stokes Valley? Where is this?
No, it's in Upper Hutt. But anyway, I had a friend come for a Sunday roast, and then this man turned up, and I said, "Oh yeah."
This is going to be quite a serious story, right? It's not like a big old laugh
yeah,
fest.
no, and oh yeah, okay. Then he said, "I'm staying." I said, "You're not staying the night. Phil's staying the night. You're fucking going."
So this guy almost invited himself over?
Yeah, he came along with a bottle of whiskey, and I said, "No, you got to go." And at 7 o'clock, it had such enough of him, and he wouldn't go. He refused to go.
Was your friend still there?
Yeah, and I rang a mate of his, and he turned up, and he said, "Come on, we're going to go." And he said, "I'm not going," and he wouldn't go with him. And I honestly thought that was how I'd get rid of him. And so 4 hours later, at 11 p.m, I just had enough.
Unbelievable. Even you had enough at 7, you were still there 4 hours later.
Yeah, and I went over towards my kitchen, and then he came towards me, and I had no way out. I couldn't get out. And so I picked the knife up, and I told him, I said, "Fuck off, don't fucking come near me." And all I remember is looking down and seeing the knife to the hilt in his stomach, and I went, "Oh my God," and pulled it out. I went, "Look what you did, you made me stab you." And he said, "You haven't stabbed me." And he looked down and saw blood and went, "You're crazy," and ran out my front door. And then I was like really worried, and then I followed him up the road because he went up the road, and then he was up the top of the street, and I went back to a house, and I saw a light on, and I knocked on the door, and this young college boy came to the door, and I said, "Hey, can you ring the ambulance, because I think there's a guy stabbed up the road." And he said, "Oh, can you just wait for my mum?" And so the mum came to the door, and I said, "Can you ring an ambulance, because I think there's a guy stabbed up the road." I ran all the way up the street, and I ran all the way back down to home again, and it was all on adrenaline. I'd never really felt adrenaline and like I did that night. And then the police turned up about a quarter of an hour later. "Come on, Karen." So I went, and I rang my lawyer at the jail, and I says, "I've done it now." I said, "I've stabbed the fucking bastard." He went, Stop, I want to talk to the sergeant. I don't want," and then he said, "I want them to give the phone back to you." And then when I got the phone back, he said, "Don't say anything." He went, "You don't say anything without me there." And they came in the cell about 3 a.m. and said, "Do you want to talk now, Karen?" I said, "Is my lawyer here?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Well, fuck off." And then this police detective lady, she came in about an hour later. She said they've moved him from ICU to a ward. So I knew he was going to live.
Oh, that's good news.
Because that was all that freaked me out. Oh my God, please don't die. Please don't die. Anyway, so they charged me with wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. And I didn't know till my lawyer came. He said, "Karen, you stabbed him twice." I said, "What?" And I still to this day can only remember picking the knife up and then seeing it in his stomach, and that was the second stab. I must have gone in, out, because they were real clean. And I punctured his lung, and I missed his heart by 1/4 centimetre. And thereby the grace of that goes I. And so 10.5 months later, I get to court, and my lawyer destroyed him on the stand because he had criminal history of assaults, but never, ever on a man. Only women and police. He said, not taken away from police, but they're doing their job.
Yeah.
You know? And so, have you ever been convicted of assault on a man? And he went, "You haven't, have you, Mr. Oh, here's the surname. And 3 days later, and 5 hours later, the jury came out and said, "Not guilty." And I was free to go. So, yeah.
That's the end of okay, so I'm sorry.
And then
I laugh when
I went to the police station and asked for my knife back. And they went and got it and gave it back to me.
Oh, mate. Okay.
Because they had to, because I was found not guilty.
I got 3,000 questions. You've got to give more. You can't just be like, and then I went there and then not guilty. I was like, sounds guilty to me. Did you plead self-defense?
No,
What was the,
yeah, it was not guilty self-defense.
Oh,
See, now, if he died, I could only have got it taken from murder down to manslaughter. You can't get found not guilty and absolutely walk
yeah.
if they die, but you can go down to manslaughter. And the way the judge summed up at the end of the trial, when the prosecutor started summing up, I was going, oh my God, I'm done for. And then my lawyer, name was Paul Paino. He's a really good lawyer. You're in trouble, get Paul Paino. He's top lawyer. And he spoke, and I felt all good again. And then the judge spoke, and I felt really good. And you get looked after by prison guards, and they're with you all the time. You always got one with you in the dock and all that. And they were going, nah, because they knew him because he'd been to jail. And they said, nah, you're not going to get found guilty of that, Karen. They said, I'll tell you this, when they go to give their verdict, if they're looking at the judge, then you're guilty. But if they find you're not guilty, they look at you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because I guess they're excited or disappointed.
Well, no, I don't think when they find you guilty, they don't really want to look at you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when they find you not guilty, they and
that's a good tip.
And then I've actually sat on a jury in a high court trial of rape.
Are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, because we found the guy not guilty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought,
and I was the only one, and I never told them.
I was on a jury too, and I was told not to talk about it.
No, not while the case is going on.
Oh, afterwards you can. Afterwards, free for all.
Yeah, because the verdict's in, isn't it?
So if you're not guilty self-defense, is he in trouble for attacking you?
No.
His punishment is getting stabbed.
Yeah.
So one close to the lungs, one close to the heart, did you say? Or punches?
Yeah, punch at the lung.
So it was weirdly comedic at the moment we stabbed him. So you didn't know you stabbed him, and you said, I've stabbed you. What was your quote? I stabbed you.
I said, look what you've done. You've made me stab you.
That is what you would say. I can imagine you said, look what you've done. You've made me stab you. And he said, no, you haven't.
And then he had a white singlet on, and he saw the blood. He said, you're crazy, and ran out my front door. Well, he should have gone at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, he should have gone at 7 o'clock.
And it would never have happened.
Would have never happened if he didn't go at 7 o'clock.
So, if you come to my house and I say, it's time to go, it's time to fucking go.
Wow. Holy shivers. Yeah, like that's an amazing story, Karen. Thank you for sharing it.
That's okay.
My only follow-up question is, where is the man now?
He went to Napier. Because his own
It's where
brother...
all bad people go.
His own brother
to
came
Napier!
Round,
We've had enough of your shit. Napier.
His own brother came around and said, I'm glad you got off, Karen, because that bastard deserved it.
Wow. And do you think he's still alive?
Well, I don't know. I seen him on Facebook, and so I put a thing here. Remember me? And I've never heard back.
Remember me, motherfucker? Here I am, surprise! I'm coming to Napier. No, okay, fuck. Shit, that is a traumatic story.
It was traumatic at the time.
Yeah,
but I can laugh about it now.
Because good on you. Because there's so many layers to it, right? There's the layer that to be in that situation with a threatening person. To pick up
a knife, I'd like to just say to people, if you're going to pick up a knife, it's a lot easier to use than you think. So I just would never pick up a knife and threaten anybody with a knife. I just wouldn't go there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that is a heck of a story.
And when they lock you up in the cell, you know what you do?
What?
You be nice to the police, and they give you a mattress, sheets, pillow slips, blanket, and Reader's Digest.
Good to get some Reader's Digest. The best way readers can digest the news.
And then you hear idiots coming and banging on the door and you go, fuck up, you're not the only one here. You should have been fucking nice and you'd have blanket.
Was that maybe the...
Because if you're an arsehole, they're arseholes to you.
Yeah.
But if you're nice and cooperate, they look after you.
I guess like in that situation though, for a lot of people it'd be hard I mean, you were fine because you just stabbed a man, so that was easy for you. But no, I'm joking. But like a lot of people would be in prison in shock, so it's not surprising when they're an arsehole to police, right? Like regardless of what they've done.
Yeah.
Not justifying what they've done, but like, you know, like most people are in prison are in the lowest point of their life, regardless of whether they've done it or not. So you can imagine a lot of people are assholes, and it's quite hard. Be a hard job as a jailer or a policeman or whatever to have sympathy for them. But like you go, shit, these people. No one really plans to start their day with a stabbing. Just it happens.
And not when you've cooked a roast and.
Yeah.
And my friend was there, but it was the gnome. It was the thieving gnome who died in last month.
That was your friend?
That was who was there.
Oh, that all ties back.
And he's just thinking...
The thieving gnome.
It's about time, I think, do I have to grab that stool and hit him over the head? Because was really tall, about 6'2".
Yeah.
And when my lawyer, somebody said, and it was a hot summer night... 11 p.m. and you've seen the size of him, and he's in the singlet and he's coming towards you. What would you do? You know, like to the jury. And when he said it's a hot summer night, all I could think of was Meatloaf.
Not the food.
The singer.
It was a hot summer night and the wind was burning. I was
when he goes
just
a hot summer night, all that
taste.
kept going through my head was that song.
What is that song? What is the song? Do you know what the song is? You took the words right
out of my mouth.
Oh,
you took the words right out of my mouth. It
must have been when you were kissing me. You took the words right out of my mouth.
But he goes, it was a hot summer night, and that's all I could think of, that song.
Hot summer night, and the feet was burning, and I was dying just to ask for a taste. And I'm dooming and roaning. Now I got to learn more. Before I start aggressively singing a song, I've got to learn some of the words. And I swear it's true, I was just about
How old were
to
you
say
when you
I
heard
loved
Meatloaf?
Man, I'm from Nelson. Every day I was born. Growing up in Nelson, music was like wrong. Like I didn't realise that. When people talk about like Britpop and like the 1990s and Blur and Oasis, I don't really know what they're talking about because I was in Nelson and we like grew up. It was like the 1980s and the 1990s, and then probably the 1990s and the 2000s. Like we were so behind.
Yeah.
It was like Meatloaf was like the main music. Like, the main band in Nelson growing up was Van Halen. Like even in the 2000s, like Van Halen, number one, baby. Queen, obviously.
I knew a guy I didn't know, I met this guy and he was from England, and he said he arrived in Auckland on a Sunday and he thought the country was closed.
Yeah.
Because it was the 1970s.
Yeah.
And nothing happened on a Sunday. You go uptown, dead quiet, petrol station open, couple of dairies, that was it.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of New Zealand, it's still like that, right? Like,
yeah.
A lot of New Zealand's still like Sunday night, it's like dead.
But we slept in the summertime with our back door wide open. We never locked our house unless you were going away, you know, on a holiday. Otherwise, you go home whenever you like, back door was always unlocked.
To be fair, Karen, with your house, anything that's out there should be more scared of you than you are of it. All right, well, shivers. That was a hell of a story, Karen. Slow clap of appreciation for that. That was bloody amazing. And we'll see you next time on the New Zealand Today podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please share, tell your friends about, I'd say the greatest podcast the world's ever recorded, featuring the wonderful Karen Hill.
And my message is, if you're arguing, don't pick up a knife.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening to Karen and myself, please support the show by telling your friends and spreading the good word on social media. And subscribe to the New Zealand Today podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever good podcasts are found. Also, where bad podcasts are found. The New Zealand Today podcast is a production of Freddie Boy Podcasts. That's a real thing, not just something we made up 5 minutes ago. It was edited by Luke, the Phantom Menace, Earl, and was made with the help of the legends at New Zealand On Air. It's like a Dane Rumble video.